run simulations to see what happens, and we can prove theorems. And we've done both. And the bottom line is that the probability, if our senses evolved and were shaped by natural selection, the probability that we see reality as it is zero. And that means not simply that I don't quite see the shape of a chair correctly, or I don't quite see the colors correctly. It's much deeper than that. The problem is that the very language of space and time and physical objects is the wrong language to describe objective reality. You could not frame a true... Instead of saying that our perceptions are a window on the world, maybe it's more like your desktop user interface. Space-time could be just our desktop, and three-dimensional objects like the sun, moon, and stars, and apples and trees and so forth could just be icons on our interface. But it gave me enough confidence to say, okay, maybe there's a theorem here. So I proposed a theorem and went to my mathematical colleague, Chetan Prakash, and we were able to prove a couple theorems. One is that according to evolution by natural selection, an organism that sees reality as it is never more fit than an organism of equal complexity that sees none of reality and is just tuned to fitness payoffs.
The cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman has made some astonishing claims about the nature of reality, which imply that nothing that we observe is real. According to Hoffman, objects, space, and even time are all constructed by our mind, which has been programmed by evolution to hide the truth from us. What separates Hoffman from your run-of-the-mill anti-realist is that he claims to have a mathematical proof that the reality around us is an illusion. His theory is called the interface theory of perception and, quote, proposes that our senses have evolved to hide objective reality, unquote. This might not sound like a big deal, because clearly there are aspects of reality that we cannot perceive, like ultraviolet light, but Hoffman goes further. I'm going to quote directly from his book. Critical realism is the belief that the structure of our perceptions preserves some of the structure of reality. According to Hoffman, his theorem, the fitness beats truth theorem, proves that critical realism is false. The conclusion, by simple logic, is the structure of our perceptions does not preserve any of the structure of reality. This is very important because according to Hoffman, if his theorem allowed our perceptions to preserve some of the structure of reality, then we could dismiss it because everybody already knows that we don't perceive all of reality. So keep this in mind. The FBT theorem is only significant because it supposedly proves that our perceptions do not preserve any of the structure of reality. Now suppose that this were true, then how could we know that evolution hid the truth from us? He says that time and space and objects, even things like neurons and DNA, subatomic particles in the fossil record, are all just a part of the interface that our mind creates, and this interface does not preserve any of the structure of reality. So doesn't his own argument, which is based on evolution, end up refuting evolution? Hoffman responds to this in his book. Quote, evolution assumes that there are physical objects in space and time, such as DNA, RNA, chromosomes, ribosomes, proteins, organisms, and resources. It could not, without refuting itself, conclude that natural selection drives true perceptions to extinction, for then the very language of space, time, and physical objects would be the wrong language to describe objective reality. The theory of evolution would refute itself by discrediting its own key assumptions, the logical equivalent of shooting itself in the foot, unquote. So Hoffman has rediscovered Alvin Plantinga's evolutionary argument against naturalism. Plantinga was making this argument 30 years ago. Human cognitive faculties evolved to produce beliefs that have survival value, not necessarily to produce beliefs that are true. Thus, since human cognitive faculties are tuned to survival rather than truth in the naturalism evolution model, there is reason to doubt the veracity of the products of those same faculties, including naturalism and evolution themselves. While there may be overlap between true beliefs and beliefs that contribute to survival, the two kinds of beliefs are not the same. Hoffman's response to this is universal Darwinism, the insight that evolution is an algorithm that can be applied to many different things, like languages or cultures, not just physical objects. Quote, "Universal Darwinism, unlike the modern theory of biological evolution, does not assume the existence of physical objects in space and time." Unquote. Now think about the way he phrased this. Hoffman claims that time does not exist, and he writes that universal Darwinism does not require the existence of physical objects in space and time, which is true. But Darwinism as an algorithm does require the existence of time. CS 101 is learning to evaluate the time requirements of algorithms, and the biggest open problem in computer science is a question about the time requirements of algorithms. But beyond that, try even talking about evolution without talking about the past and the future. The notion of time is an inherent part of the concept. I mean, look at the subtitle of his book. Evolution hid, past tense, the truth from us. And it really doesn't make sense to claim that the laws of physics don't exist in reality, but evolution does. Read any book on cosmology and you'll find a discussion of which laws of physics allow for biological evolution to occur. Hoffman gives no explanation anywhere in the book for why the laws of physics don't exist in reality, but evolution, which depends on them, does. He just makes the assumption that the structure of evolution is preserved from objective reality, even though this violates the FBT theorem, because otherwise, his argument logically shoots itself in the foot. Hoffman goes on to discuss what the objective world might really be like underneath the veil of our perceptions, and he just assumes with no justification that it works in this universal Darwinist way. He says, quote, "I won't claim, for now, to know anything about this world. In particular, I won't assume that it has space, time, or objects." Unquote. All that there will be is agents that perceive, decide, and act, and evolution acts on them. You might be wondering how Hoffman is going to describe evolution without time, and the answer is he isn't. So there's no time in this world, because remember, time and space are just part of the interface we've evolved. But then Hoffman says one page later, quote, "Each time the agent acts on the world, it changes the state of the world." Unquote. And, quote, "It guides actions that glean enough fitness points to survive long enough to rear offspring." Unquote. And, quote, "Each agent has been molded through generations of ruthless selection to decide on actions that lead to desirable payoffs in fitness." Unquote. And, quote, "Those who lack this coordination suffer a pathetic proclivity to die young." Unquote. So there's no time in the objective world in which the illusion of time evolved, but there's youth and surviving long enough, and decisions that lead to fitness payoffs for future generations?
What are you talking about?
None of Hoffman's claims about reality are justified, and none of them even make sense without falling back and accepting the existence of time, which is supposedly just an illusion. So even if Hoffman's claims about the unreliability of our perceptions were true, all it would show is that evolution is self-refuting, which would confirm Plantinga's argument. It would not show that evolution hid, past tense, the truth from us. Here's a question posed by the skeptic Michael Shermer. If the world around us is not real, how is it that humans have been able to develop scientific theories that have led to so much technological progress? Hoffman's answer is that the laws of physics are just the laws of our interface. He compares the growth of science and technology to learning to play Minecraft really well.
You serious?
This leads to an obvious question. If we encountered intelligent extraterrestrials, would they have the same laws of physics that we have? What, for example, would prevent them from building a perpetual motion machine or having a different value for the speed of light? An intelligent species that evolved apart from us in a radically different environment would evolve a different interface and therefore have different laws of physics. This doesn't make any sense at all when you try to figure out what would happen if we met. Would the alien perpetual motion machines suddenly stop working because we were observing them? According to Hoffman's claims, Even a low-tech species should be able to build a perpetual motion machine if it evolves the right perceptual interface. The alternative is that no species can evolve an interface that allows for perpetual motion, which means that a law prohibiting perpetual motion, like the second law of thermodynamics, is part of the objective world, not of evolved interfaces. But this would violate the claim that the structure of our perceptions doesn't preserve any of the structure of reality. If the laws of our physics are just the laws of our species-specific evolved interface, then other species intelligent enough to formulate laws of physics, but who had followed a completely different evolutionary path in a completely different environment, would have different laws of physics. It doesn't make any sense. Clearly, something has gone wrong with Hoffman's argument. Let's take a look at the paper and the proof of the fitness beats truth theorem. And let's remember what they're trying to prove in this paper. According to Hoffman, what they've disproved is the claim by other scientists that perceptions that are true tend to be fit in an evolutionary sense. First, the paper defines two perceptual strategies, truth and fitness only. The truth strategy tries to infer the true state of the world, whereas the fitness only strategy chooses the perception that maximizes fitness. Do you see a problem here already? Fitness is the thing that evolution maximizes, and what Hoffman is supposedly disproving is that true perceptions are fit perceptions. If you oppose fitness to truth right off the bat, your argument is circular. If you say which one wins, truth or fitness, you are implicitly assuming that truth and fitness are different things. And evolution is a fitness contest. Fitness is, by definition, the thing that wins in evolution. By opposing truth to fitness, you are guaranteeing a loss for truth. For example, here they show that the fitness payoff to the fitness-only strategy is greater than or equal to the payoff to the truth strategy because, by definition, the fitness payoff to the fitness strategy is the maximum expected fitness. This shows that fitness is at least as good as truth, so the only thing they need to do now to show that fitness beats truth is to show that fitness and truth are not equal. How do they do this? By assuming a priori that there is no relation between fitness and truth.
It's brilliant. Sorry.
Hoffman likes to cite the example of an Australian beetle that almost went extinct because it could not perceive the truth.
The Australian jewel beetle is dimpled, glossy, and brown. The female is flightless. The male flies, looking, of course, for a hot female. Now, as it happens, these bottles are dimpled, glossy, and just the right shade of brown. The males swarm all over the bottles, trying to mate. They lose all interest in the real females. The species almost went extinct. Australia had to change its bottles to save its beetles. The males had successfully found females for thousands, perhaps millions of years. It looked like they saw reality as it is, but apparently not. Evolution had given them a hack. A female is anything dimpled, glossy, and brown. Even when crawling all over the bottle, the male couldn't discover his mistake.
Hoffman repeatedly cites this example as if it proves his case because the beetle didn't evolve to see the true state of the world. But clearly the beetle didn't evolve to find the perception with the maximum expected fitness either. Its flawed perceptions, after all, were driving it to extinction. Why would we even expect a real-world organism to evolve to find the absolute fittest perception out of all possible perceptions? This fitness-only strategy that magically maximizes perceptual fitness is defined to be perfect, like a Platonic form. And again, in evolution, fitness is the win condition. To say that an organism's evolutionary strategy is to maximize expected fitness is like saying that your chess strategy is to maximize expected checkmates. It is not a strategy, it is the goal. An organism that can choose the fittest perception will also choose a true perception whenever the true perception is the fittest. So there's no way that truth can win. Just like a chess player that can choose the best move every time will control the center whenever necessary, and so will still defeat a chess player who tries to control the center. I can then claim that a strategy that controls the center of the board is wrong, because any such strategy, which can actually be implemented by a human being, falls short of the strategy that is described only as maximize expected checkmates at every move, which is unbeatable, but unusable. And then if I assume that there is no a priori relation between the two strategies, I've proved that chess players that control the center are driven to extinction by checkmate maximizers.
Centralize a knight. Oh no, my queen! My queen.
And because the fitness-only strategy is by definition the fittest strategy, you could prove the same theorem about any perceptual strategy distinct from the fitness strategy, including a strategy that intentionally chose false perceptions. So proving a fitness beats truth theorem does not prove that our perceptions are not true. Fitness beats literally everything when it comes to fitness. Ultimately, what this theorem proves is that the perceptual strategy that magically chooses the fittest perception will choose fitter perceptions than a perceptual strategy which tries to choose truth, assuming that truth does not choose the fittest perceptions.
It's brilliant. Sorry.
At the end of his book, Hoffman compares his work to Buddhism and Hinduism, but only superficially. There is a profound analogy between the idea that our reality is composed of information about fitness payoffs and the idea that the world is made up of dukkha and tanha, suffering and thirst for becoming, thirst for life, desire and aversion. I considered going deeper into the comparisons between Buddhism and evolutionary theory, and also of demonstrating an evolutionary algorithm I wrote to generate levels for an RPG. But they're only tangentially related to the topic of this video. So instead, I'll conclude with a quote by the great philosopher Conan of Samaria. "Let me live deep while I live. Let me know the rich juices of red meat and stinging wine on my palate, the hot embrace of white arms, the mad exultation of battle when the blue blades flame in crimson, and I am content. Let teachers and priests and philosophers brood over questions of reality and illusion. I know this: if life is illusion, then I am no less an illusion, and, being thus, the illusion is real to me. I live, I burn with life, I love, I slay, and am content."